Most Pokemon fans know about Gary f***ing Oak. You know, this snarky man who constantly got in the way of our boy Ash Ketchum? Yeah, that Gary Oak. He's still seen as one of Ash's best rivals to this day, with many wishing he stayed as a rival for the entire series. I personally really like Gary's career change, as him aspiring to become a Pokemon professor really brought the character into his own, and ending the rivalry between the two characters in a nice way. Since then, Gary has made several reappearances throughout the anime, but I've always wondered what would happen if Gary stayed a trainer. How would the story and relationship between him and Ash change? Well, I'm here to answer that here today. Greetings my comrades and welcome back to Zonolith. Today we'll be tackling what if Gary stayed a Pokemon trainer. Let's go! Our story begins at the end of the Johto League, where Gary is just lost to Ash. This loss has really showed Gary how much he needs to grow, and so decides that from here on out, he'll become even stronger to become a Pokemon Master and beat Ash. After the Johto League, Ash heads off to Hoenn while Gary stays in Kanto to do some intensive training, further mastering his skills and getting rid of any sort of arrogance he once had, maturing into a much better trainer in person. This reflection allows Gary to still grow into his own as a character, while making him staying a trainer feel like the natural progression for the character. We'd either see this during the advanced series in a flashback or just hearing about it, but we would know Gary would be doing something during this generation. Eventually, Gary would head off to Sinnoh, and Ash would soon follow, as he wants to fight his greatest rival once again in a new region. The two would encounter each other several times while in Sinnoh, with both forming a disdain for Paul and his methods. The two would also battle at every chance they get, showcasing how both have matured as trainers and people, and the annoyance they once felt for each other has now turned into respect and understanding. Brock would even take notice of this, and would be happy to see both rivals come such a long way. Their time in Sinnoh would reach its climax at the Sinnoh League, where Gary and Paul would be put up against each other. Gary wants to beat Paul just as much as Ash, to prove that their way of training Pokemon is the right way. Paul would view Gary the same way he does Ash, but would be a bit more wary of him. The battle would come down to an Electivire showdown. Gary would hold his own, but Paul is just stronger in every way, and so Paul's Electivire would take the win. This of course would prompt Ash to beat Paul, not just for himself, but for Gary as well. As we know, this would result in Ash's win, and Gary and Ash would have another farewell. As Gary tells Ash his battle with Paul has made him realize that he needs to become even stronger, that strength is all that matters now. He can't keep falling behind Ash, no matter what, and so Gary decides to head to the battlefront here to grow more as a trainer. But this leaves Ash worried, as Gary's aura has gotten darker. While in Unova, Gary would be mentioned a couple of times, as Ash would tell Iris and Silent that he's his greatest rival, someone who has constantly pushed him forward. But Gary would remain pretty absent in this series, as I don't think he would contribute much to the overall narrative and soft reboot feel Black and White was going for. But in Kalos, Ash and Gary's rivalry would be pushed to its limit. Ash and the others would encounter Gary at the Solage City gym, where Gary would desolate Grant with his Blastoise. Ash is ecstatic to see him, but Gary very rudely pushes him aside, saying he has no time to waste talking to him. He tells Ash that he better see him at the Kalos League, or else he's leaving him behind. This worries Ash. Clearly his loss against Paul has gotten to him, and Ash swears to make amends with Gary the next time he sees him. That next time would be shortly before his 6th gym battle, as they would encounter Gary in Rivalry City alongside Sawyer. Gary tells Ash that he's in his way, and that he needs to move on to the next city to get his next gym badge. Ash questions Gary, asking him what happened, that he was never like this. Gary tells Ash he simply realized what he was lacking, a fixation on becoming stronger. That drive. Maybe Paul was right. That becoming stronger in the end is all that matters. Ash gets upset and the two have a battle, Pikachu versus Blastoise. Blastoise completely destroys Pikachu, winning the battle. Gary aggressively comes up to Ash and says that if he ever wants to become a true Pokemon Master, he won't ever be so weak. These words break Ash and would end up being a large factor in his future losing streak and depression arc, as Gary was the one rival he could always rely on. And now, he was worried he had lost not only his adversary, but friend. After beating Wulfric, he swears to save him at the Kalos League. This raises the stakes even more, as now Ash would have to deal with Sawyer, Alon, and Gary. This would reach its climax during the Kalos League semifinals. Let's just boot Sawyer to the top 8. I'm sorry, Sawyer fans, you don't deserve this. This 6v6 would be unlike any battle Ash has ever had. Gary is strong. Very strong. His power level since their last battle has increased exponentially, and all of his Pokemon are in perfect shape. But Ash and his Kalos team would push forward. Gary would send out Blastoise, but Ash came with his own ace, Charizard. That's right, Ash figured it was time to recreate their battle at the Johto League to remind Gary why they're rivals. Gary, in an attempt to absolutely destroy Ash, would Mega Evolve Blastoise, but despite the power-up boost, Charizard would maintain its footing, actually staying toe-to-toe with the Mega Pokemon in base form, and in the end, taking the win. After the battle, Gary would be destroyed, not knowing what to do. He lost to Ash, he lost to Paul, he doesn't know what he's doing wrong. Ash would simply tell him he wasn't being himself, and that was his greatest weakness. He tells Gary that from now on, he should battle the way he wants to battle. And Gary thanks Ash for everything. Gary would assist with the Team Flare crisis before once again heading off on another adventure. We wouldn't see Gary again until Pokemon Journeys, where Go and Ash visit Oak's lab. Gary tells Ash he has no interest in the PWC, and ironically, just like Paul, now wants to become a gym leader. He tells Ash that he wants to make sure new trainers don't make the same mistakes he did, and is hoping his knowledge can help create a new generation of trainers just like Ash. With this, Gary's battling journey would come full circle, ending his character arc. So, what do you think? Do you think this is how Gary's story would have went if he were to stay a trainer? Personally, I think I may have gotten a bit too creative with this one, but it was still super fun to write regardless. With that being said, this video was a wrap. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications to never miss an upload. Once again, my name is Zonolith, and I'll catch you guys next time.